Hello, this is Parker with Route4Me. Who do we have on the line?
Hi Parker, my name is Steven.
Hey, Steven, how are you?
I'm doing quite well. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm great. Yeah, let's jump into it. I'd be happy to help. I'm not sure exactly how much you know about Route4Me or what you've seen, but what are you guys doing now currently to optimize and create your routes?
Yeah, I was referred to you guys by a colleague of mine. We currently use paper and pen routing, and we write down all of our addresses. We've been doing it for 20, 30 years. But now it's really time for us to kind of put this online, and I heard that you guys were the best at this.
Great. So, are there any kind of more specific challenges that are, facing your business today?
Yeah, I mean it's really just figuring out the software and figuring out how to use it. Like I said, we just use paper and pen routing, so we're really new to these online websites.
Okay. If you're using paper and pen, I can probably, we've got a lot of customers that have come to us. A lot of times it just takes a lot of time. The routes get complicated. There's certain variables, or it's just very time consuming, and obviously difficult. And sometimes you have issues with drivers, or customers call in, that kind of thing. So why don't I go ahead and, yeah, I think I know your pain pretty well. I've even had customers who sent me sent me pictures of their maps that they've blown up on the wall and like pasted onto the wall like wallpaper, and that's what they use to help them route. So definitely time consuming kind of thing. So why don't I go ahead and show you my screen? Give me one second here. And are you able to see my screen? I'm just at the route4me.com homepage.
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And I'll just show you how easy and quick it is to plan a route. So I'm going to just go ahead and log in here. And you log in with your email address and password, basically. Very simple, straightforward. One thing that's really important is to have a very user-friendly interface. So of course we include, onboarding and training and support. Make sure that you're up and running fast, but we want to make sure that, you can actually use the system. It's very straightforward. So on the left here, this vertical blue bar on the left is something that I call the home bar. And basically, you can access all of the different features and things that you'll need to plan your routes, assign routes, do that kind of thing. So you can see here we can plan a route. We can view our routes list. This is actually the page that we're on currently, is the routes list. You can also view routes on a map screen if you want to view multiple routes on a map. And then there's some other features as well. So since you're kind of new to route planning and online, again, we try to keep a very simple user interface. I'll just plan a quick route with you and show you how fast it is. Does that make sense, Steven?
Yeah, great. What would you recommend us using to upload our addresses? You know, we have everything all written down. What do you
Yeah.
recommend? I'm sure you've experienced this before.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we can do for you. I mean, it depends a lot on how you want to get data in. We have a lot of customers who have just a spreadsheet file. They upload a spreadsheet file. And we have a lot of customers that copy and paste from like a text file, like a Word document file. We can also just manually enter them and get them into the system. If you do have everything on kind of like paper and pen, you can actually upload those scans to us and we'll get them into a very user-friendly file for you. So we can actually convert that. There's a little bit of a time for that. Usually, we say, hey, give us at least 48 hours and we'll get your addresses into a nice file for you. So we can do that as well. So there's a lot of different ways to get the information in. So you shouldn't have to worry though about, where you're at now and where you need to be because we're going to help you every step of the way. Does that make
Great.
sense?
Yep.
Okay. For now, I'll just do an interactive map, and just kind of basically we're going to pick points off the map, or we can manually enter the addresses just to kind of give you an idea. So we can name the route whatever we like. I recommend naming a route with the date of execution, the date that that route's going to be executed on. And of course, we can schedule the start date, start time, and service time per stop. So, for example, there's an hour long service time. That's the time spent at each location. And if you have individual times, we can accommodate that as well. So, does that make sense so far?
Yep, sure does.
Okay, great. Now, I really want to show you something that I think is probably something that's really great, and going to make it really easy. There's a couple of things that are important before I show you that is when we talk about distance. Distance is really important because we can do straight line optimization, which is kind of as the crow flies. That's very simple and not very accurate. What you really want is drive time optimization. So that's using actual driving time and distances. So it's very, very important to have that. So the optimization, so there's a couple of different things you can do for optimization in terms of the features that are available. There's single driver route. This is, for example, if we were to put in, let's just take a round number, 100 stops and say, okay, take 100 stops, I do a single driver route. The system's going to create one route with 100 stops on it, all in the correct sequence. Does that make sense so far?
Yep, sure does.
Great. And we can just choose round trip. We can end the route at any address or end the route at a specific last address. The other, you can do a balanced team route, and you can say, hey, I've got 100 stops, and I want to split this into 10 parts. So the system in this case will create 10 parts and sort of balance the routes. So you'll have 10 routes, each with around 10 stops on it, because we've got 100 stops total. Um, that's one way to do it. A kind of a better way to do it is to minimize, because of course we want to minimize some things. So we can actually put in maximum number of routes, maximum route duration of 8 hours, for example. And this 99 here. It doesn't really matter what I put in. It doesn't matter. It's kind of saying, hey, what's the max number of vehicles or routes? It's kind of an interchangeable term. The point is that when we put in our stops, we've already put in all the data like service time. The system's going to calculate drive time and distances and things like that. And it doesn't matter that it says 99 here, the system will minimize, meaning that the system is going to create the fewest number of routes possible to make sure that we go to all of the stops at the right time, and in the right sequence. So if you're currently doing your routes and you have 10 trucks that service those routes, the system might say, hey, given all this information, we can actually do this with 7 trucks or 8 trucks. We don't know. The system will basically tell us how many trucks we need. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any questions at this point?
No, not so far.
Okay. Um, Well, that's kind of planning route, so I'll just go ahead and plan the route. So we'll we'll just go ahead and create the route, proceed to add some addresses. So I'll go ahead and just throw in some addresses here. I'm actually in the Rochester, New York area, so we'll just kind of grab some points off the map. I'll make it a little bit bigger here. We'll add the nearest valid address. So you can pick off the map, you can zoom in, zoom out, you can add an exact location, like a GPS location. You can type locations in. So for example, if I start typing in, let's see, 1500 West Jefferson Road. I'm not sure if that's going to be in, let's see if Rochester comes up. It does come up somewhere. So I have no idea where this is. I just kind of made up that. I just know that there's somewhere. So you can see it's actually right here. That's the location. So we'll start adding a lot of other addresses. And you probably have seen, if you're doing paper and pen, maybe you're using maps a little bit, you kind of see, okay, yeah, we can get them on the map. Yeah, it makes sense. Most people would say, hey, let's go in this circle. The system may do that for us, but what if we add, one little thing here or one that's kind of a little bit further out? Is it going to have the same sequence for us? And of course, it gets complicated when we start adding a lot more stops. So we've got 12 stops here. We'll just go ahead and plan the system. And again, don't worry about this data. We'll help you get it in the right format to make sure it's going to go in for you nice and easy. So the system now optimizes our route and creates it for us, and should take just a few seconds or less.
Well, it looked pretty
Okay, great.
fast.
So yeah, very fast. And in this case, you can see that there's 2 routes. The reason it created 2 routes is that I had a service time at each of these stops to be an hour. And then I had a maximum route duration of 8 hours per route. So the system says, okay, well, I can do these, and our start end point is here in downtown Rochester, New York, and it says, okay, you're going to need 2 routes to complete all of these stops because every stop has an hour-long service time. So does that make sense?
Yep, sure does.
So you've got your two routes, and they're now optimized 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the blue route, and then the same thing on the green route. Actually, kind of going the other way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see the route duration is a little bit less. And you can play with these because it's so fast. So you can say, hey, maybe it makes sense to, pay someone a little overtime, because I don't want two routes. So there are use cases where it might make sense to say, hey, maybe the route duration can be 10 hours instead of 8 hours. So you can actually kind of do that, or if sometimes we have part-time days. Someone gets paid part-time, this driver, for example, needs a little bit more. So on the blue route, he's working 7 hours and 11 minutes estimated. Let's give him another, pay him a little overtime, and take one away, and that makes this person part time. So for example, you can see number 4 and 6 are pretty close. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that. So we can pull number 4 on the green route and put it in between 5 and 6 of the blue route, and very quickly make that change, and the system will update everything. So you can always make changes, and you can see, it's just going to basically make those changes throughout. And for yeah, you can make changes at any time for any of the routes. Very simple and easy to do. And
Oh, it looks like my audio
yeah,
went
so
out. I'm sorry
that's
about that. I do have a
oh
question.
yeah, no problem.
How can you see drivers? I have many drivers, so that's really important for me to understand how the drivers work.
Mhm. Yeah, so you can see that the routes have been planned. If we click assign user, we can assign one of our drivers, and we can name them whatever we want. In this case, I just happen to have them named as sales rep 1, 2, 3, 4. But you could say Bob or John or driver one, whatever you want to say. And so you apply that route to them, and then they'll have the capability to download our free mobile app on either iPhone or iPad or Android. So we support every major platform, and then we can actually see tracking. So we've got users, we can actually see the users come up. We want to see any of them on the map. So for example, they'll start showing as just a dot on the map. So we'll actually be able to see those users on the map showing up. I can show you an example of that. Let's go ahead and pull, let's go to our routes list. Actually, let's just open up this particular route. And the drivers will be able to see the manifest. So for example, if we want to turn on users, we can turn on route tracking. Because they're using a mobile device, we can actually track that mobile device. So you can actually see on the map the users come up, and the green route is the optimized route. That's the sequence they should be following, and the blue route is the historical breadcrumb trail. So that's the route they actually did follow. And if you want to see them live on the map, they show up as well. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
Great. Yeah, I think it's very simple, and kind of see that. Um, any questions you have, or anything like that?
No, it looks like you pretty much covered it. It was really important for me to understand how I can import my addresses and kind of convert my paper and pen routing to Route4Me, which looks like you guys will do a great job at helping me achieve that.
Yeah, we'll definitely help you with that. It's definitely a concern for a lot of new customers, but we're going to help you with that process no matter how you have your data. It could be written on a pen and a napkin. We'll still help you get it into the system. We're going to be there for you every step of the way, and it's not going to take up too much time either. And it's really important when you choose a platform to really make sure it has the correct features. I can't tell you how many customers that come to us, and they really, for lack of a better term, they told us that they were lied to, just because a company said, "Hey, we have optimization," but they couldn't handle advanced constraints. They weren't really minimizing. They weren't really creating the routes. So just make sure that you have the correct optimization. Really, the big difference is when I showed you earlier to actually plan a route. you have to absolutely have drive time optimization. That's super, super important. Straight line optimization only works in certain cases for very simple things, but is not very accurate, obviously, for, total trip durations. To be able to minimize routes is very important. To have all those things, very few, if any, companies actually have them. So just make sure that you choose the right platform for that. And that's just so, so important because just, a company can say they have optimization, but you have to know I kind of tell people, there's a difference in grade levels when you go to school. There's third grade level, optimization, which is not very complex, very easy to do. But with Route4Me, we have PhD, advanced degree level optimization that is presented in a very easy to use platform. And so you're going to have the correct kind of optimization. So hopefully that helps. Any other questions, Stephen, or should we jump off and get you into a free trial?
Yeah, that should do it. I'm excited to get started.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steven. We'll jump off. We'll get you in a free trial. Appreciate it. And if you have any questions, please reach out to our support at any time.
Great. Sounds great, Parker. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day.